What's going on, YouTube? Just slowly getting parts stacked up here. Gonna get them ready for paint later. That's for the 2006 F350. Got a little bit more work to do on that one. A few little scratches and marks we had to fix up. We're gonna go ahead and sand that down, see if there's anything left. One of those is sanded and one's not. We had to do some repair work on the bottom corners. And that's off a Rumblebee. It's just sitting there. Took it out of the way. And as you can see, we've got the 63 Cadillac Coupe DeVille, or 63 DeVille. I've never seen it with all the metal on it, so it is what it is. Started going over this car finally, which is great. It's a pretty clean car. It was originally a gold-colored car. And back in the 80s, it was painted white. And the nice thing is it's white underneath, which means when it was done in the white, and it was done in probably an enamel, because I know the guy that painted it, but all the stuff had come off and it was done properly. Now he sold the car, and another guy bought it. Don't know what this pink is. I'll probably wipe it with a little bit of old school cleaner that I got kicking around. It's like a real strong thinner. I have a feeling it might wash some of this off, which would mean it's one of those early acrylics or acrylic enamels that, yeah, it's kind of, could be lacquer. I don't think so. I just have a feeling it's an acrylic, so I think it'll almost wash off. That being said, a little bit of fill here, but I mean, it's you can see it's so minimal. So that's always a good thing. But there's no rot, a little bit of rust around the holes. We'll sandblast all those hole spots. But here's some of the nice surprises. It's a bit of, just paint failing up there. If you look down here, I mean, little spot right here. There's no really rust in there, and all the pockets inside under the fenders are great. This is what your rockers look like. Again, pretty great. Door bottoms. Dirty, but not rusty. Look inside that door. Once we grab the vacuum, suck all that stuff out, there isn't even rust in there. Now I'll probably go in there, put a little bit of that rust treatment primer stuff in there, just to shoot some into the bottom, just to keep it as clean as it is. Now someone did put a patch here and it's flat. We've got these, they're not 100% factory because you can't get any stuff for this, but there's guys that remake some of this stuff. We're just going to cut out this triangle because when you're under the car, there's kind of a little lip and that just sits over it and there's like a seam around it. So we're just going to cut that shape out of the floor, oversize this, spot weld it in. Actually, I'll probably just butt weld it in completely all the way around. But the other side's a little thin there, but otherwise these floors, and they're a little dirty because they got all that, what do you call that? The stuff under the carpet, the underlay, so that's all kind of stuck to it. But like if you look real close, anything that you see like this, it looks like a little bit of rust. It wipes off and there's like a gray primer, I guess. I don't know if it's primer or what it is, but something gray underneath it, so that's always great. As far as the doors go, they're really, really nice, except right here. But I was told that right here got hit and a little bit of the door. So this probably got manipulated. There was some fill right there. The structure inside has no rot, little surface. I'm going to cut a bigger area out by quite a bit until we don't see any black, or not black, but any rust on the back side. Then we'll remake that piece, weld it right into the door. And I can probably do that on the car, especially when the fender's not in the way. I'm going to take the fender off. Down here was full of sandblast sand, so there was some holes probably back in the 80s, and they blasted it out and puttied it up. As soon as I pulled whatever junk there was off, it was all bubbly and flaky. You can come down here, you can see there was actually sandblast sand from the 80s still in it. Now the guy who painted it pink didn't do any body work from what I understand. He just touched up a few scratches and, you know, stone chips and then put the pink on top. Here's the gold color on the pillar that was hiding behind the chrome. It's not gold, but it's hard to catch on camera, but it's kind of like a metallic taupey sort of color. Anyway, we don't care about that. So right here on both sides, we're gonna cut this out, put new steel in there on both sides. That's the worst of it, and the parts I showed you. Driver's side needs to be cleaned up and painted. Here we've got, again, I have a feeling that'll Scotch-Brite off, so we're gonna clean all this up back here. Now the only rust that's similar to this stuff, which is pretty much nothing, is like the back foot here of the car. So check it out. Look at those floors. I don't know what that gray color is, but that's the whole car. A little bit of rust, see? Last foot of the car, tip of the gas tank, bit of surface. The frame back here a little bit, and you can see how it slowly goes gray. And by the time it goes up over the tire, it's perfect. So what we're doing on this car, as far as I know, we're starting out with the frame. We started under the middle. I wonder if I can show you that. Under the hood's already all been restored by the owner, which is great. But yeah, see, we basically, there's zero pitting. We're basically taking a little bit of surface rust off with whatever paint was still left from the factory. And because of the oil and stuff, it was pretty clean, but there's no pitting. Like even, here's your drag links, the few spots that are out. I mean, this will clean up like brand new metal, which is great. Here's your floors, little surface there. Rest is all nice and gray. So we're gonna spin brush it all off, slow speed, because we don't want to polish the metal. We want it to stay fairly rough. And then basically scuff it up a bit. And I think we're just gonna black out the whole bottom of the car. So far we're doing the frame, but because it's so clean, I'm gonna ask the owner if he wants to go ahead and might as well paint all the floors and everything. So let me show you, this is a 390 car, and these were a 390 Cadillac with a, they claim like 400 horse, thereabouts. But if you look under here, there's a little layer of dust on there, but everything from here this way, not the fender, but like everything under the hood has been restored. It is super clean. It's all like a semi-gloss black. It's hard to tell with the dust. But I mean, even the AC unit's got the sticker on it. It's perfect, like the alternator. And what he did is he rebuilt a lot of the components instead of replacing them so that all the things would still sort of match and be right. Radiator was rebuilt. And like he told me, he goes, he didn't even know if the radiator had any leaks or any issues, but he said it was getting a little soft down, you know, down in the fins down low. So he pulled it out, had it rebuilt, record, by somebody that he knows that does pretty good work. But like, look, even like that's one of the canisters for the AC, right? And look at that. It's everything under this thing is beautiful. I've got the air breather sitting way up there, mainly because it's so nice. I don't want to get it scratched up. There's the top for it. It's sitting on a little piece of plastic down low. It's not sitting right on the floor. We're gonna have to take this little panel out from under the fender, paint it black. The one for the passenger side's in the car and already off. This is probably the original wheels and tires. Now he's purchased a set of spoked wheels for this, all four, which was like an option for this car, and he's found them, and they're basically new old stock in the box. And then he's going to put Coker tire white walls all the way around. When you come down the car, from what we can see, should have wiped the dust off first, but the car is very straight. But when you get halfway down the back door, and I come down a little low, there's some little waves. And right above the wheel back here, see if we can catch that. You can see the little waves. So I have a feeling it's had a little bit of a rub. Anyways, we're gonna fill that and block it all out. But this is about as good as a car gets, especially from this area, and we're in Ontario, Canada. This has been an Ontario car since at least the 70s that we know of. You don't see cars like this. I mean, I restore really clean cars sometimes, and they're not like this. It's hard to tell on camera, especially when you're comparing it to something else. But like, look, see, there's this frame. It's all blacked out and nice. And he basically came down to the body mount supports here. then when you go from here back, nothing. I think the reason the pan under the feet, not just wet boots, but this is where there's a resonator here or a muffler or something. I think that gets pretty warm on the floor. That's the only spot where we got to do a floor pan realistically. But this is a very clean car. When you take these old 63s, you know, and anywhere around that area, this stuff is all rotten. Now, they had like a, you can see here, there's some still under the paint here, but there was like this stuff. It's like a black tar stuff that they painted over, and it went all the way around. I pulled all that off, because usually you take it off, you find rust underneath it, but this is, you know, that'll spin brush off. Like, a wire brush will clean most of this car, especially a wire brush on a drill. You'll have this clean in no time, and we'll treat the rust and seal it up. The worst of the car, in my opinion, trunk lid. You can see why. Now if I go up in the hole, you can see there's metal missing here about an inch worth, and then there's a little plate that should be there. We'll remake the plate. I've got a picture in my phone that someone online sent me, and it has this little plate that sits here just to finish it. It's a piece of tin, so we're just going to remake that. But right here, there should be metal that comes from here across to this that's just gone. But the back side, if I reach, it's kind of nice, and then you can feel where it's not. So we're going to have to cut this out across here. Don't worry, I can make all that and make a piece come out and re-lip. Put that in on both sides. We'll do it in 2 sections. Then the ends will close up separate. Sometimes breaking it down into multiple pieces just makes sense. And this, there's no way of knowing what the whole thing's like, but once we cut the bottom out, we can see it. However, I think it's easier to basically cut, probably go just under 1/4 inch down from that line, all the way across. Cut it here and here. This seems to be perfect underneath. From here out, not so much. But we can always replace this too. But what we'll do is we'll do this right to the corner on both sides. And then of course, whatever's going on here, we'll cut this out. We'll have to make a little piece in here. Once that's all welded up and everything, there'll be very minimal bond. There won't be any filler in this, hardly at all. Like, it'll be just to get rid of any weld, you know, a little bit of fill basically so we can block it, because I want this thing as straight as we can possibly get it. Sure, people are curious because this is where things rot. I mean, this is like spin it all up with a brush, clean it up. The metal's nice and thick everywhere. Right here would be the worst, and I think it's going to be fine. But once we clean it up, if anything looks kind of shoddy, yeah, there might be a little bit of flake right here. So, you know, there might be an 8-inch by 10-inch piece or 12-inch piece right here that has to be put in, but I have a feeling it's okay, but we'll see. Sometimes you spin it up and you're surprised, but all in all, like, look at that. Like, it's, the rust is kind of just sitting on top from little spots. Up there's okay. A couple of rock spots right there, you can see. We'll treat those. These are good. The pockets down in there. Well, here you go. Right? Not rusty at all. That weird undercoating they used is kind of everywhere and still there, and some's flaked off. So this is more of an extreme cleanup, which is great. This is going to be a cool car, and it's not everybody's cup of tea for sure. You know, a lot of guys have commented before that, oh, I kind of like this stuff. Do more of this stuff. Look, I do what pays and what people bring me. So this is going to be, I don't know what it's going to be worth, but it's going to be a fairly high dollar restoration. But we're starting out with a really, really good car. The driver's door needs zero work. Basically, clean it up. We're going to take all the pink off at the very least. And I mean, by the time we get there, we'll probably take most of the paint down to at least the original. But I mean, sometimes it just makes sense to keep going. So it depends how it acts. But I mean, you want to find a solid substrate. Nothing's failing or going bad. However, any signs of filler, Bondo, whatever, when we see that, that's all got to be stripped out. So I have a feeling, you know, this might come down to bare metal. Maybe not, but real close. Like, a lot of it probably will. But I mean, I want all that pink off, because if something's going to fail, it's going to be that for sure. But we'll take as much of it off as we can. I'm probably going to put like a full gallon worth of that CRE 321 on this car. And basically from there we'll do the metal work and do everything we have to do. And then at the end we'll do the Cree again, even it all out, block it. The car's going to go in, we haven't picked the color yet, but he wants a not candy apple red, because he doesn't want what everybody else has, but he wants kind of a bright but dark bloody red with a lot of metallic in it. So I have a feeling we're going to use a color that I've used before, which I'll save that for a later video. But what we're going to do, it's a stock color that a certain company uses in the early 2000s that was a real hot red, like it real bright but hot, like it had a lot of metallic in it. And what we're going to do, I talked to my color guy about this, the paint guy that mixes all my paint for me, and he says we should have no problem adding some of the pearlescent stuff instead of just because I believe the color we use has some gold and silver metallic in it. So we're going to pump up the metallic levels. I figure we'll double them because there's not lots in it, but because of the type of paint it is, it'll look good. And then we're also going to add a little bit of what they call rainbow fleck. It's not, well, I shouldn't say that, not the rainbow fleck, but some of the bases use like the metallic is multicolored, so you get a little bit of color change in it, right? And a lot of colors have that, but it's kind of subtle and you don't see it. So we're going to use some of that base and then put the other base with the, yeah, how did you explain this to me? We'll use that base with the multicolored fleck, which it's kind of pearlescent fleck, but it's not like a tri-coat. It's just right in the base. And then we're going to, you know, basically we're just going to pump up that color to be really, really sparkly, because this car is huge. So like a dead solid color. I mean, this is going to be yellow and it's going to be a solid color, single stage paint that can be cut and buffed, but it'll be bright and yellow. But this car is like 21, almost 22 feet long with the bumpers, right? So it's insanely long, and we want this, you know, this is going to be like something a cartoon pimp would have drove, right? But no fur, no crazy stuff. Nice bright red with lots and lots of metallic in it. We're going to do a deep paint job. White walls, spoked wheels. Interior for this car, all white leather, and he's got it already. Beautiful stuff. I think he's just waiting on the door cards, but everything else he already has. White liner, white. We're going to restore the steering wheel, the steering column. There's some cracks. We're going to have to take basically a small cutoff wheel on the die grinder. We're going to, you know, go in slow speed, eat all those cracks out, fill them with epoxies, sand them down. There's a special epoxy primer that I'm going to use for this. I'll do a review on that when we're doing it, because I've never used it before, but my paint guy said it won't be a problem. He goes, that's what you'd want on that wheel and it'll never wear out, and then we can paint it and clear coat it. We're probably going to do white where the white is, and where the gray is, we might do that in the red of the car. And, you know, so it'll all be metallic-y and clear coated. But other than that, the inside will be kind of bone stock, but all real nice white leather. And I believe this had like a kind of a off taupey white leather in it originally, but he's going to more of a creamy, a nice creamy white that's going to really kick with the red we're putting on this. Anyway, so that's what we're working on today. I got my guy Bernie coming over. He's going to go underneath the car and continue cleaning the bottom. I'm probably going to keep working on all these plastic pieces for the F350, and that's what we're doing today. If anything cool happens, I'll throw up a video. Cheers.